Welcome to the fourth week of the Marist Young Adult Online Lenten Retreat. I'm BB Chang and I'm your host for the scripture-based retreat. If you've been joining us each week, then you know that our retreat focuses on a gospel reading and a reflection prepared by a member of the Marist family. After the reflection, some questions and a suggested action are presented for your consideration. This week's reflection has been prepared by Chris Kleska, a religion teacher at Roselle Catholic High School in Roselle, New Jersey. Last week, Vicky Blazak encouraged us to pause and reflect upon the progress of our Lenten journey. In reflecting upon the story of Jesus and the Samaritan woman at the well, Vicky noted that in making himself known, Jesus was giving us tools to help us to make him known and loved. As you enter into this time of retreat, take a moment to quiet yourself and recall one way in which you have made Jesus known and loved this past week. Take a deep breath and give thanks to God. Breathe out anything that might be worrying you. Breathe in a sense of peace. And listen to what God is saying to you as you pray the following prayer. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to listen to Jesus, but the Pharisees and scribes began to complain, saying, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." So to them Jesus addressed this parable. A man had 2 sons, and the younger son said to his father, "Father, give me the share of your estate that should come to me." So the father divided the property between them. After a few days, the younger son collected all his belongings and set off to a distant country where he squandered his inheritance on a life of dissipation. When he had freely spent everything, a severe famine struck that country, and he found himself in dire need. So he hired himself out to one of the local citizens, who sent him to his farm to tend the swine. And he longed to eat his fill of the pods on which the swine fed, but nobody gave him any. Coming to his senses, he thought, "How many of my father's hired workers have more than enough food to eat, but here am I, dying from hunger. I shall get up and go to my father, and I shall say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son. Treat me as you would treat one of your hired workers.' So he got up and went back to his father. While he was still a long way off, his father caught sight of him and was filled with compassion. He ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. His son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son.' But his father ordered his servants, 'Quickly bring the finest robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Take the fattened calf and slaughter it. Then let us celebrate with a feast, because this son of mine was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and has been found.' Then the celebration began. Now the older son had been out in the field, and on his way back, as he neared the house, he heard the sound of music and dancing. He called one of the servants and asked what this might mean. The servant said to him, 'Your brother has returned, and your father has slaughtered the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound.' He became angry, and when he refused to enter the house, his father came out and pleaded with him. He said to his father in reply, Look, all these years I served you, and not once did I disobey your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat to feast on with my friends. But when your son returns, who swallowed up your property with prostitutes, for him you slaughter the fattened calf. He said to him, my son, you are here with me always. Everything I have is yours. But now we must celebrate and rejoice, because your brother was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and has been found.
The Gospel of Luke presents us with one of the more iconic parables given by Jesus to his disciples, in the parable of the prodigal son. This is the story of a young man who takes his father's inheritances, goes off into the world to experience follies, and finds himself defeated, broke, and poor, to the point where he needs to return back to his father, who opens his arms graciously and joyously, and rejoices in the return of his son's coming home. Lent and this Lenten season for us has that same sort of connection, that same sort of comparison of us returning home. Throughout this period of time, from Ash Wednesday to Easter Sunday, and with all the little sacrifices we make in between, we are embarking on one of the greatest celebrations of one of our greatest beliefs, that Christ resurrected from the grave in order to save us. And during which time we display proudly that we want to celebrate in this belief. We put ashes on our heads on Wednesday and show the world that we are embarking on this sacrifice. Every single day we try to adhere to the sacrifices that we make in order to properly understand what it took for Jesus to sacrifice his life for us. But yet, simultaneously, I think we need to think back to the fact that we too are also that prodigal son. Throughout the rest of the year, and throughout most of our lives, there are actions and things that we commit that compare to the prodigal son going off and experiencing his follies, enjoying the world and spending all of his inheritance and money. And in the end, we find ourselves damaged by some of these actions. We damage ourselves, we damage our relationships with others, but most importantly, we also cause a distance between us and God. During reading this entire parable and trying to come up with this reflection, as I often do, I listen to music, and two songs and two artists that really came to speak to me during this period of time were the words of Philip Phillips and Mumford and Sons. In Philip Phillips's Home, the one line that really struck was the idea of, you know you're not alone, but you'll always find your way back home. And Mumford and Sons proudly proclaims and screams, I will wait for you. There's always a home for us to return to, and there's always a willing God who has his arms open and will rejoice in the fact that we have returned back to him. He will celebrate and slaughter the greatest calf in order to make a celebration for us. And despite those times when it feels the most dark, and that there is nobody there that can help, God will wait for us, and he will always be there to invite us back home. In this Lenten season, it's the important time to really think about the return back home. How are those actions in which that do cause a rift and cause a divide, cause a separation and distance between us and God? And how can we return home as seen in the story of the prodigal son? So, it leaves with questions that you can ask for yourself during this period of time. What have you done that has kind of distanced yourself? In what way can you travel back home? And how, during this Lenten season, can you experience God who will always wait for you?
Spend some time considering the reflection questions. Afterwards, think about how your reflection might lead to some concrete action this week. Here's one suggestion. Sometimes we might feel guilty about a broken relationship. At other times, we might fail to accept our faults or choose to blame others for the situation. Spend some time this week looking honestly at a ruptured relationship. Then take the necessary steps to heal yourself and the situation. On behalf of the Marist Young Adult Program, thanks for participating in the 4th week of our online Lenten retreat.